Welcome to Hortculture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture.
Welcome, listeners, to this last and final of what we've been calling, the host and I, what we've been calling kind of our special holiday series episodes. And these are episodes where we either do episodes by ourselves with a guest, or maybe a couple of us. You've heard from Jessica and Alexis, and I think Brett did his own solo episode. So if you've been listening to those episodes in December, you'll know that these are the special holiday episodes. They tend to be a little shorter in nature, and we do kind of different things to make it through the holiday season and still stay on schedule and track and get all that behind us. Well, now we are in January. My goodness. And it is now here in central Kentucky, 65 degrees in January, and the sun is shining. It just as easily could have been 0 degrees with a foot of snow on the ground. Kentucky will absolutely always keep you guessing. But a really exciting discussion that I've looked forward to today with Lori Bowling. She's the Boyd County Horticulture Extension Agent. And when I was in the eastern part of the state, I had the pleasure of working with Lori for, Lori, I guess 10 years. It was a long time, and we did a lot of programming with other agents. We did a lot of group programming back during that time period in the eastern part of the state, and worked a lot together, and I really enjoyed that work. But before we get into the main topic today that I've been looking forward to talking to Lori about, really exciting Master Gardener project, before we get into all that, Lori, you normally start with a general discussion topic. Well, I'm going to ask you, since this is wrapping up the year, we're in January now, but we're wrapping up our special holiday season episodes. If you can think back personally or through work, even since we're horticulture extension agents, what has been your biggest plant success or failure in 2025? You can tell on yourself this is a place to do it. This is the time. So thinking back, it must be good.
Yeah, as far as plants.
Yes, plants or program related. I'm thinking about plants, I guess, because I'm always doing goofy things with plants myself.
Well, program related, I don't know that I've had any big flops.
That's good. That's a good thing. No professional flops. Yeah.
However, if you saw my windowsill in my office, all I got to say is do as I say, not as I do.
So I'm assuming that you have some dead plants in your window.
I do. Because
I think as a horticulture extension agent, people will let you know about that, right?
I know. And it's
people
beautiful.
That come into your office are going to see that and say, I thought you were the horticulture agent.
Well, I am the horticulture agent, but here's the thing. The horticulture agent doesn't just sit in this office and take care of plants.
Ooh.
She is out teaching and doing programming.
Nice spin on it. Or you can tell people maybe it's a sick bay. Hey, these are or an experiment. How about that?
It's a mortuary.
Oh, okay. Not a sick bay. I've never heard of a plant mortuary. That's a new one on me. I have out back what I call a plant sick bay, where all the stuff that's not doing well, usually I'll dig it up and throw it next to like a compost pile or something. Then it does great when I quit bothering it.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of a plant mortuary. Yeah, that's a new one on me.
Yeah.
I guess I sort of had a plant mortuary. One of my biggest plant failures, or kind of a silly plant failure in 2025 of my own, was I was cleaning out it's a stacked flower bed. It's or stacked planters. There's like 6 that's kind of offset in a row, almost like a ladder. Some really nice planters, and they had some weeds in them from the previous year, what I thought were weeds. Well, me not paying attention, doing what I do, I was excited about pulling up and getting rid of all the weeds. And out of the 6 containers, I left one of the containers. I didn't have time to weed them all, so I left some of the weeds to pull later. Well, the plants grew in that container. They grew up, and I noticed they were these beautiful calibrachoas, hundreds of them. And I was like, oh my gosh, the calibrachoas I had in there the year before had self-seeded, which callies are not supposed to do that. Calibrachoas generally don't self-seed. Petunias a lot of times will, but the calibrachoas had self-seeded and came back true to type. And I transplanted those things everywhere. And I thought, my gosh, if I would have left those, the 5 that I pulled up, all of those callies, and destroyed them. And here's me pulling up plants that I should have known what they were, but I pulled up probably $500 worth of plants that had self-seeded beautifully. Mother Nature did not need my help. It
Wow.
just did it on its own. But yeah, that's my plant failure. But
Well,
yours is right out there for mine, at least, Lori. We're hidden in the back.
yeah,
You just wear
mine
yours
are right
loud and
here for
proud.
everybody to see.
Yeah, just for everybody to look at. Well, I admire that. I do have some scraggly looking plants. I have some Barbados lilies, which are amaryllis, in my office. I have some very sick peace lilies or spathiphyllums. My office kind of looks like a jungle in the corner. But I tell people, I'm like, listen, I pull these plants from other people or other places in the office where they got sick, and I'm trying to nurse them back to health. So no matter what, I'm trying to spin the storyline. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you have the
just tell
plant
people,
ER. You have the plant
yeah.
ER. I have the mortuary. So yeah.
Okay. Well, at least we're being honest. You're not telling people it's an experiment. You're just straight up telling them, hey, they're dead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they are.
dead
They're
no
dead.
more. Well, we did not have Lori on the show today on this episode of Horticulture to talk about dead plants. We as horticulture agents much more enjoy talking about living plants and programs. Well, the program that I wanted Lori to tell us about today, some more detail, is one I learned about many years ago when I worked in the eastern part of the state. A really, really cool program with what I consider just huge impact in a whole entire region of the state and other states, from what I understand, Lori. And that is the Federal Correctional Institute Master Gardener Program that takes place. I guess it's the institutes there, the correctional facilities in Boyd County. Is that correct, Lori?
Yes, it
Well,
is. Yes.
if we could just start out talking about this program and how it came about, how you got together with the leadership there at the correctional facility and came up with a Master Gardener program that's a little bit out of the ordinary and that was held in a prison setting. So if you could tell us a little bit about that at first, I would love to hear the origin story of this awesome program.
Sure. So, when I started working for Extension, I started back in 1997, and I actually started as a program assistant for horticulture under our agriculture agent. And he basically just let me run with anything horticulture because, I had the background and he knew that I was capable of doing it. Well, he got a call from the food service director at the camp. That the facility here in Boyd County, it's a minimum security, and it has a camp as well
Okay.
as a main facility behind the fence facility.
Mm-hmm.
So he got a call from the food service director of the camp. And at that time, they were having a lot back then. I think it was in 2000 was when this happened, 99 or 2000. They were having a lot of budget cuts, a lot of things like that. And he wanted to talk to our agent about putting in an orchard out there at the camp so that they could get more fresh fruit, at least apples, for the inmates, because they are required to give them feed them by the food pyramid, so many fruits and vegetables and all that every day. So the ag agent got me involved, and we got apples and pears planted out there. We got a specialist up here to help us, and we got an orchard planted. And that went over so well that they wanted us to start doing maybe some education with the inmates to help them along to be able to take care of the fruit trees in the orchard. And we decided, hey, what about let's do this Master Gardener program? This is education. We do it here in the public setting. We could do it in the camp setting there at the institution. And so they were all for it. And we started our first class. I believe it was in 2000 was when we did our first class. And every year that I would work with the education person there at the camp, but every year they would let inmates sign up for the class, and they would keep a waiting list.
Waiting list. Wow.
Yes. We only took a max of 25 students per class, and we always had a waiting list.
And that's considered 25 for a Master Gardener class on average in the state of Kentucky. That's a big class, Lori. Yeah. Wow.
That is a very big class. And every year, I always had it in January. We would start in January. And every year, I always had a full class. Now, I would lose some to the SHU, which is the I can't remember what that shoe stands for, but it's the solitary confinement. They
Yeah.
would get in trouble and they would be put in solitary, and I would lose them. Some of them that would go there, they would come back and have to get caught up. Some of them ended up going back inside the fence, and they didn't come back to the class. But on average, I would graduate 18 inmates every year out of that program. So the big question that I always get is, I can understand you going in there and doing the teaching and teaching the curriculum, but to be a certified Kentucky Master Gardener, which these inmates were certified Kentucky Master Gardeners when they got done with the program.
I was just going to ask you the Kentucky Master Gardener program, like all programs around the U.S., it's a big program. It's almost like a semester of vocational or freshman year college class, 10 to 12, very intensive, minimum program. So you offered the full program inside the prison, like the full experience?
Yes.
Like the full
we
Master
did.
Gardener curriculum, which is, gosh,
Yes.
Lori, the manual itself is almost 400 pages.
Yeah.
So you did the full
So
program.
I did the full program, and I've done it that way every year. And I would always tell them, to me, basically, the information and the knowledge that they gained from that class, to me, was almost equivalent to a 2-year horticulture college degree.
Mm-hmm.
And they would do volunteer time. And a lot of people would say, well, how do they do volunteer time? They're
That's my
incarcerated.
next question. Yeah.
So, that began with them wanting an orchard, and somebody had to take care of the orchard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the inmates that took care of the orchard, they would go do it after their job that they had in the facility. So they would volunteer. Well,
They would volunteer. So, man, that must have been like a perk or something to get to go outside. And I'm assuming when you say like a camp area, it's a few acres or whatever this garden. So they get to go outside. So it must have been, if they're volunteering, it must have been like a perk.
well, it was kind of a perk because they had their jobs, and a lot of them, you had some that worked landscape crew that were going outside and mowing and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But not everybody got to do that. They
Yeah.
had to request to be on those jobs, or even if they were going to volunteer, they had to be in the class to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to get approval from the guard that was overseeing the garden or the orchard. So what happened was, the orchard did so well that then they had the idea, because they had some land just sitting there that they owned that could be used for a vegetable garden. And so it just snowballed from that point. We started a vegetable garden, and the inmates would go over and they would till the land. They would plant. We would teach them how to plant. A lot of the students that went through this program were inner city people that had no idea how to grow anything. Well, some of them knew how to grow a few things,
Yeah.
but
And what were the
mostly,
responses to this? I mean, them learning all of these, well, based on what you just said, learning these completely new skills and doing new hands-on things. What was the response to that?
it was a really good response, actually. You always have a few that you get in the class that are just there to get out of doing something else. But the education department out there was really good about weeding out the inmates that they knew would not fit in this class.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, was there a selection process or prerequisites for them to be in the Master Gardener program?
Yes.
Okay.
So the education department would take care of all of that for me. And one big prerequisite was that they had to have their high school diploma or their GED.
Okay.
So they had to have that before they could ever be in this class, because it was pretty much a college level course.
Yeah, the information is pretty heavy. Yeah.
Right. So the education department also would look at the inmate as a whole, as far as their inmate record and their attitude and things like that, and they would look at that to screen those possible students for me. And by far, I got some really good students throughout
Well,
the years in that class.
I was always impressed, and I was very fortunate that you invited me a couple of times to come and do an individual session there when I worked in the eastern part of the state. And I was always, at first I didn't know what to expect. I thought, well, am I going to come into a big class of folks that aren't going to be taking it serious? But I found that very quickly not to be the case. I went in, and the couple classes that I was fortunate enough to work with for a couple of educational sessions, they took it very serious. They asked some of the most intense kind of asked great questions. They were taking the class very serious. And I asked a couple of them after, the teaching portion was done of the class. I said, yeah, you guys seem like you're really into this. And they said, well, yeah, it's really important to us because they felt like that if they did well at this, that it would help them after they got out of the correctional facility to find jobs. So they were taking the program,
Yes.
Lori, really serious. And I quickly saw that with the participants, and it was really cool.
Yes. And that was, every class, when I would go in, the first class meeting, when I would go in and introduce myself and just give them a little bit of background about the class and what to expect and what I was going to do and what they were expected to do and what they would earn. That really got them interested, and they were really interested. I would explain to them that if they fulfilled all of these requirements, that they would get certified as a Kentucky Master Gardener, and that they would get that certification or that certificate, and they could use that when they got out on job applications, and attached with resumes, because it was recognized across the whole U.S. The Master Gardener program is a national program. And of course, the University of Kentucky is, pretty highly regarded as at least as a ag school. They are regarded for more things than basketball. I tell people that, but and I tell them, it's kind of impressive if you have this certification, and it could go a long way.
A national certification, yeah.
Right. And I would always encourage them, if they did get out and seek employment in the horticulture field, and they were going to use that certification, that if anyone needed to verify their certification, that they could give them my contact information, because it was on the, on the website or whatever. Because there's a lot of guidelines and training I had to go through to even be able to go into that facility.
I was going to say, I imagine there's some requirements of you.
Yes.
Even though the program was the same, you probably delivered it. There's some special considerations I was assuming you had to make when you set this up. Yeah.
Yes. But they were always really, really interested in the fact that it was something that they could use when they are released from prison. And the whole goal, and the longer I did this program throughout my career, the more I started to see the benefit from it. I mean, you expect benefits, and you hope you get, make successes, but the more you see it actually happening, it's humbling to me to see, have an inmate to contact me and let me know. I just wanted to let you know that while I didn't go into a horticulture field job, I was able to use that certification on a home loan, because they asked for any certificates or anything that I had in personal stuff, and that helped me get my home loan.
I was going to say, hard skills is one thing, like horticultural skills. That's what the program's good at doing. But it sounds like they kind of were able to prove those soft skills because they had to show up someplace, both in their volunteer work. I'm assuming they had to watch schedules and do things. So hard skills, and that's probably those soft skills that help them, I guess. Some of them that may need to have developed some of those too, participating in a big program.
When they're incarcerated, they have a set schedule, that they have to go by, that the facility makes them go by. Yeah. And when you add things like this in that aren't in that set schedule, and they show up, they still show up, and they still do, that's really good for them. Yeah. But I've had a lot of inmates over the years to contact me. I even had an inmate, I always encouraged them too, when they got back to their home county, to seek out their extension office and see if they had a Master Gardener program. And if they did, to see if they were, wanted to join, to see if they could join. I said, no, I'm going to tell you right up front, they're going to do a background check on you, and you're not going to pass the background check. And I said, but it's up to each individual agent and how the school, or the extension service operates, as to, if you want to join that program and be a part of that program, they can find a spot for you. And I said, if they need to contact me to verify your certification, they can. And I have had here recently, about 2 or 3 years ago, I had Pennsylvania contact me wanting me to send them proof of a gentleman's certification. Now, I don't keep a copy of all their certificates. I have
Mm-hmm.
every test that I have ever given at the Federal Correctional Institution in my files. So that's for 20, it's been 21 years, almost 22 years I've been doing this. And I have every test for that many years in case they need verification.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I have sent that and I have answered those requests. I always told them if you came to my office and you wanted to be a part of the Master Gardeners, I would find a place for you to work. I would find a place for you to be a part of the organization where you could fit in without damaging or interfering with our policies and procedures as far as that
Mm-hmm.
background check and things like that. But yeah, and here recently, a year and a half ago, we had a gentleman go through the program, and he is actually from not right here in Boyd County, but in this area, and he has gone back to his home county, and he is now teaching irrigation classes and some other classes for the extension service in the
Oh,
county.
wow.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal that
And
he
I'm
was
sure he
able.
recognized the extension service being a part of that program with you. He probably maybe learned of extension through you, maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I think he was very familiar with extension, but I think he came from a farming background more so than the horticulture
Gotcha.
background, the
Yeah.
agriculture
He
background.
kind of already knew.
And yeah, so he knew about extension, but he didn't know everything that we had to offer.
No.
And now he's being able to give back to the program that he was able to take advantage of while he was incarcerated.
Well, it's not surprising with as many years as this program's been going on, considering, let's say, an average of 20 to 25, and you do it every year, Lori? Pretty much
Yeah.
you've done it. So
Yes.
the number of, you're almost like the school teacher that retires and then she keeps running into her students and hearing from her students. You're kind of like that teacher, have been doing this for so many years, and when folks graduate through the program and get out of the institution and they go different places, different states, and you're hearing back from all of them, it's not surprising to me that you would hear all these positive testimonies, because once again, I acknowledge, and having been involved in Master Gardeners a long time, it's a big program, it's a premium program, gives you lots of knowledge, um, and lots of skills. And I think a lot of the skills are kind of honed and developed through which we've not even talked about, the volunteer portion and what they've done. We've not even started getting into all of that. And you alluded to the fact that there was a garden that started with fruit trees, but did that expand beyond that in all of these years? I mean, how did that progress? Because a big part of the Master Gardener program is what? It's actually a volunteer training program
Right. It is.
to go and give back a certain amount of hours, right?
Right. Right. So it started out with that orchard, and about 2 years in, if that long, they decided that, hey, if we can raise fruit trees, we've got this land over here. If the
Mm-hmm.
institutional lettuce, there was a guard willing to oversee it. He took it. He took the idea, he brought it and talked to us about it. And then he took it to the institution to get approval to do it. So they had about 6 acres that was
6 acres.
it was just being
Wow.
mowed.
In horticulture terms, 6 acres, knowing the intensity of what you're talking about, that's a lot of space. That's awesome.
Yes. And so they agreed to put a vegetable garden in there. So now you have the fresh fruits, and now you've got fresh vegetables that are going into the facility.
Into the facility. Gotcha.
Yes, into the facility. However, I think it was in 2005 that changed. The facility went to what they said was a nationalized menu, and that every inmate in this facility over here in Nevada would have the same lunch on the third Tuesday in the month of January as the inmate over here in Ashland.
Oh,
Basically, that's how it was kind of presented to me. But anyway, they no longer wanted to take the produce inside. So in order to keep a uh, place for these inmates to do their volunteer time, uh, I was approached and asked, if we keep the garden going, do you have some place that could use all of this produce? And I said, I think I do. And I made a few phone calls. We have here in Boyd County, we have a entity called River Cities Harvest, and River Cities
Mm-hmm.
Harvest is a program that distributes food to those less fortunate in our tri-state area. We're right here on the border of Ohio and West Virginia, so they distribute food to all three states, to different, other organizations like the food pantries, the soup kitchens. A lot of churches have food pantries. So I contacted them and I asked them if they would be interested in supporting this program by buying the seed and the things that would be needed for the garden. And in return, they would get all these pounds of produce. And so they took it to their board. The person I talked to took it to the board, and they were like, well, how much money are we talking about? And I said, well, last year we spent $2,500 on supplies for the garden, but the poundage out of the garden was 75,000. And they just looked
Goodness
at me and they were
gracious.
like, really? And I said, yes.
Wow.
So we kind of pulled it all together. We came up with a plan. And since 2005, everything in that garden has gone to River Cities Harvest. And River Cities Harvest, within 24 hours of the product being, or the produce being picked, River Cities Harvest already has it distributed. So you're getting it as fresh as you can. The people that they serve are getting it as fresh as they can, a lot fresher than the grocery store. And I think they told me the last time, I want to say when I asked, it was 28 agencies or 32 that they distribute to. So,
That's pretty incredible, Lori. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know how many people each agency actually serves, but it's been a really, really good program because it's twofold. You've got the inmates on one side that are getting the education and the knowledge, and they're also getting to work in the garden. And a lot of inmates will tell you that they would rather stay busy and keep their hands busy until they have to go to bed at night to keep out of
Mm-hmm.
trouble. Um, and then you've got on the other side, you've got the community over here, that the people in our community that are less fortunate, that really just need a little bit of help, and instead of getting a lot of canned or frozen, fruits and vegetables or things that have a lot of preservatives in them, they have access to a very good selection of extremely fresh produce that they can serve their families to try to have a healthier diet over here on this side. So, and a lot of people, you realize that people that are, maybe are on food assistance, a lot of times, and especially in our society today, we buy those quick meals, anything quick to fix that kids can fix
Oh,
themselves.
I know. I'm guilty.
Well, I'm guilty of it too. But when we have an option, and I go to the grocery store, and I know a lot of people have done this. You say, okay, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to eat fresh fruits and vegetables, and I'm going to eat healthy. And then you go to the grocery store and you price how much that stuff is, and you
I
can't afford
was
it. So
just going I was running numbers in my head, Lori. When
yeah,
you said 60, 70,000 pounds, and considering what the average cost of a pound of whatever fresh, I mean, we're talking about premium food products
yeah,
that just the prices are only increasing. I was running numbers in my head, Lori. That's an incredible number that my brain was trying to calculate. I was
yes,
multiplying out like how much
yes,
that much would equal in bell peppers, or whatever you're growing in fruits and apples or whatever. That's,
yes.
yeah, a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah, it's just, so these people that are on food assistance, they have to decide, do I want to buy these fresh fruits and vegetables, or do I buy milk, or do I buy cheese? What am I going to buy? So this kind of helps take some of that pressure off of them if they can get this type of product from their food bank or whatever, and then they can use their food assistance dollars to buy the proteins, things,
Mhm.
other things that they need. So to me, it's a win-win situation. Um, you've got two almost separate things that you're dealing with. On
Yeah.
this side, you've got education, and on this side, you're worried about health and diet. But it all works together. So I think I want to say I had the last numbers. sent to me the other day. Well, it's been before Christmas, and I can't really remember because I'm getting old, and things
I
slip
think
my
we all
mind.
are, Lori.
But I want to say that the final poundage for this year's garden was around 87 or 92,000. A lot of it
Just
depends on the
amazing.
weather.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it depends on if something happens at the facility where the inmates aren't allowed to go out on the weekend to take care of the garden because the guard isn't there. His job, he works Monday through Friday. There's a lot of different variables, but even with all of the problems and the years that we've had droughts or had really rainy season and things just got killed with a lot of disease, um, I think the least amount of produce that we've ever pulled out of that garden has been 65,000.
I mean,
So,
yeah,
you
you're
know,
really producing. I mean, that's a pretty good scale of production on those 6 acres, and it's been maintained over years. That high
yes,
level of production.
yes,
I'd like to say just simply that the stars aligned, and it's an amazing project. But I know a lot of planning and hard work went into this, and I've heard you say that you were using the produce one way inside of the facility. Well, when that agreement or that plan fell through, then you kind of dug down and you found another place for all that produce to go through river cities. But it really did. It sounds like the stars did align with a lot of hard work, and you've got that incredible production. You first of all had the educational program, you took care of that, and then you provided a way for the inmates to get the volunteer hours within the facility. That's amazing in itself. But even more so than all of that, you also were able to take advantage and put all of those food products into the community through, and you just happen to have, it's amazing to me, Lori, hearing this, that you just happen to have this local organization that distributed these fresh products over 3 different states, which is crazy because it's a very specialized thing when you work with a food pantry or similar organizations to even have the capacity to work with fresh fruits and vegetables. It's
yes,
amazing that how everything just came together, and I know you guys worked really hard at it.
yes, it is. Like I said, for them to get it distributed within 24 hours of it being harvested is
Yeah.
phenomenal. And they have a lot of great volunteers at River City's Harvest.
I have to guess
So,
that you guys are the biggest contributors to River City's harvest.
as far as fresh fruits and vegetables,
Fresh,
we
yeah.
are. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, but and on the other side of that too, when that started happening, when we went to the partnership with River Cities Harvest, now when I go into the first class or the first meeting with the classes, I explain to them too about even though you are sitting here in incarcerated in this facility and not able to go out and do anything in the community, you can do something in the community. You can, even from sitting here. You are in
Hmm.
this program and you are going to help feed those in need in our tri-state area. And we totally, we completely appreciate everything that you're going to be doing this year to help feed those in our community. And you know what the biggest thing almost all the inmates say? That could be my family that
Yeah,
needs that
I
help.
was kind of curious when if they ever had a response when they learned that, yeah, they're taking a class and they're doing volunteer payback, but what was their response? I was curious, what was their response when you told them, no, this is a very real thing. The food goes to people
Yeah,
in need. So did they respond to
that
that then?
yeah, that they definitely respond to that. And that kind of, if they're on the fence about whether they really want to be in that class, sometimes that pushes them over the fence because like I said, a lot of them come up to me after the class and thank me for what I'm doing and tell me, that it could be their family that needed that food and they're glad that this is going to the community and that they're glad that they're able to be a part of something like that. So
Yeah.
it gives them more of a purpose, because they're sitting there doing their time and they're doing their job inside, but they don't actually have a purpose. You know what I mean? They're just doing their time. So
Yeah.
now they can do more with their time and make a difference with their time. And hopefully it changes them enough that when they are out of the facility, when they are released from the facility, that, I hope that it will help them to look for ways to give to the community that they go back to or that they settle in. And like I said, a lot of them have contacted me over the years to give me success reports and to tell me how they're doing or to tell me what they did with that certification. So to me, that's a huge win. If I don't do anything else in my career, I have made the difference in a few inmates' lives.
Yeah, it sounds like more than just a few, Lori. Over the course, you said what year? Over all of those years, this has been going on for many, many years. Yeah, you've touched a lot of lives over time. It sounds like, and we tell people when they take the Master Gardener program, we're pretty deliberate as agents. We're like, listen, our motivation is number one. Yeah, sure, we want to transfer horticulture knowledge to you, program participants. Ones like we're talking about today, or just the general public. We want to give them, but really we're about community betterment and putting that knowledge to work through volunteer work in communities. That's at the heart of the program. And it's been really neat, this program, that you did just that, and you reach beyond the facility. Even though they are in the facility, they're not going outside of the facility. They are reaching with their efforts in this program beyond the facility. So it's just really cool kind of hearing all the different parts, with the support that you have through, yes, the College of Food, Ag, and Environment at UK, but the cooperation that you have with the food bank, and the cooperation that you have with the Correctional Institute management there. It's just all came together. And once again, I know you guys worked hard at that, but like, what kind of advice? I know that you've been approached a lot, Lori, for other people because I mean, this program's gathered kind of national attention. I know I've seen it on the news, and I'm like, oh, I know this person, Lori Bowling, and the folks there. But what advice would you give for someone that would be interested in maybe trying to start a program similar to this? I mean, is there kind of things that you would tell them straight off, or?
Well, I know a lot of different agents in different states even have started garden programs in correctional institutions, whether it be federal, state, or local. What makes this one so unique, as far as I know, there is no other Master Gardener program with a garden program
Yeah.
in any other facility that I'm aware of across the U.S. There may be, but I'm not aware of it.
That actually have like the garden area within the facility, you mean, or?
Well, they may have the garden area within the facility, but they don't do the Master Gardener program. They don't do that.
Got you. They may grow some things, but yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And they may do some plant classes or horticulture classes, but they're not getting a nationally recognized certification like the
Yeah.
inmates that are going through the Ashland program.
Yeah.
The first thing, I have a lot, like you said, I have a lot of agents that will come to me and ask me about it. The problem, some of the problems that you have are, especially if you go into a county program, you have a high turnover of those inmates. They may be there, they're not there the whole time to go through the whole class.
Yeah, I ran into that, Lori, and I never would have thought about that, but that's a great point. Our local, 4 or 5 years ago, in my local community, we had the local county facility approach us, and I said, well, it's a 12-week program. Then they have to give back 40 hours to complete the program. And they said, oh, that's not going to work for 80% of our folks.
Right.
And so that was our roadblock. Never would have thought about that, Lori. That's a great
Right.
point.
So that is a hindrance in certain settings. In other settings, maybe the state or the federal program or institutions, first of all, you want to make sure that the powers that be at those places are on board with it, because if they're not, it will just be an uphill battle all the way. You need to make sure that they fully understand how that program is going to work, and that they fully understand that there has to be something for these people, the students that go through the class, to be able to do the volunteer time on. If they can't go outside the fence and you're not willing to put a garden or anything like that inside the fence, then the program's not going to work. The biggest thing, though, is, again, getting the backing of the leadership in that facility. That's huge. Over the years at this federal facility that I've been at, we have gone through some years where I thought the program was going to be terminated.
Oh, wow.
It was really scary to think that they're going to, they were even considering that this program could be terminated. However, they never did, because it makes them look good to our community. And, these institutions, when they're set in, ours is right there in a community where there's an elementary school and a middle school right beside them, right beside this federal institution.
Yeah.
And we've never had any issues with the inmates or anything with that facility being so close to the schools. But you know, you always worry about if they're going to terminate the program. And they they saw that they wanted to be good community partners. They wanted to fit into their community, and they saw that this program that we did, this garden, was huge for
Yeah,
that.
what a great story to tell that you're giving 60, 75,000 pounds of produce
Yeah.
that goes into local communities. What better story can you tell? Not only that, but the development of the inmates that within the facility. What a great story. Yeah.
And the main thing is the what's called the recidivism. You don't want inmates coming back in the facility. So anything, any kind of training, any kind of education, you could give an inmate or get them to take, that when they are released, that they can make good use of it and try to lead a better life, so that they don't end up back inside that facility within a year or two. So
Hmm.
that's the big goal too, is trying to keep down on repeat offenders and
Yeah.
having them come back to the facility. So I and that's hard to gather. I've asked the facility several times if they have any information, any data, any numbers on that, and that's something that's kind of hard to gather, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't usually get too much information on that. But and another thing is, not only the the people that run the facility being on board with you. But, I rely really heavily on that education department at that facility to screen the inmates, to choose my students for that class. So if the facility that you're looking at does have an education department, you need to really get in talks with them and have
Hmm.
them help you in that manner. And then there's another component too. I don't just go in there just because I want to go in there. I have to go through volunteer training for the federal prison. And it's a 4-hour training every year that I have to go to. They run a national background check on me the first time you go. And then every so many years, you have to they take your fingerprints and take your picture and all of that. So, there's a lot that is required of me to even be able to go into that facility to do any program like this. So just
I know that it's not easy, and there's special hurdles you've overcome throughout the years, and I've heard them today, and I know there's even a lot more that you probably not even discussed. And I remember the first time I went through there and forgot I had a pen in my pocket. I was like, "Oh, this is kind of different." Just as a guest speaker, I was like, "This is kind of different." Lori has to deal with this all the time and then some. So, but I know you've overcome all of those, and you put together what's come to be a very polished program over the years. So hopefully that'll, Lori, I hope it'll continue on. I know it's a great, strong program. It's a state model as well as a national type model program, and with only upsides. You've mentioned kind of all the wonderful things. Once again, I see all the hard work in the program as I read about it in news articles and stuff. I've read about, the program over time. A wonderful example. It may not work with everybody. I found that there is certain things I learned locally that, some of the things we just kind of talked our way through at, local county programs. It may or may not be a fit, but you've certainly done a good job with the program, Lori.
thank you very much.
Wonderful. What a great discussion. It's one that, once again, Lori, I've looked forward to and really enjoyed working with you all of those years in the eastern part of the state. And I know that, guess what? With Lori Bowling, who is the Boyd County Horticulture Extension Agent, once again, this is not the only thing she does. In addition to this, I bet you have Master Gardener programs, just standard community programs, and you have other community programs and all these other things that you do in extension besides this. So it
Yes,
sounds like this one program is enough to keep anyone busy, but it's probably not even 10%, 20% of your total schedule.
probably. Yeah.
I know you stay busy, Lori, and I know your local communities certainly does appreciate all of the things that you've done over all the years. But Lori, appreciate you coming on the show today. What a great discussion. Just really do appreciate it. And for those listening, Please join us again next round, our next episode. Hopefully, all of the other co-hosts, Brett, Jessica, and Alexis, will be back with us to join in as we kind of go back to a regular schedule. But Lori, once again, thank you so very much for the discussion today. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.